Ahead and thank you, David. All right, so we will begin with our call to order.
Virginia Bloom. Virginia, are you with us?
Here, I'm here.
Thank you. Colleen Burns.
I'm here.
Madarima Chakravorty.
I'm here.
How did I do?
Really good. Really, it's like you've been saying it your whole life.
Ted Foss. I see you, Ted. I can't hear you, but I'll take that, Ted, as a confirmation as I see him speaking. Matt Fruth.
Here.
And Sarah Glavin is also present.
Thank you all. Welcome everyone to our most well-attended library board meeting in my experience. The next item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from our May 22nd meeting. Does anyone on the board have any questions or corrections for those minutes? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Virginia. Is there a second?
I'll
Ted
second.
Foss, second. Oops.
I heard Ted. Is there any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, will the secretary take the roll call, please?
Virginia Bloom. Aye, I see a head nod. Colleen Burns.
Aye.
Madarima Chakravorty.
Aye.
Ted Foss.
Yes.
Matt Fruth.
Yes.
And Sarah Glavin is yes.
Excellent. Thank you. And moving on, we now have public comments. I did not receive any emails or notifications that someone had filled out the form in advance of the meeting. David, did you receive anything?
I have not.
Okay. Is there anyone who is in attendance now who would like to speak? This is not the section for the board applicants presentations. This is for other public speakers. You have a chance now to enter something in the chat that you'd like to speak or raise your hand and we can mute you.
Everyone on the call should have the ability to unmute themselves now.
Okay. Last call for any public comments. Hearing none. We'll move on to trustee comments and board calendar.
Just had one quick question, David, and I apologize if I missed it in the narrative. Is there a time that's been identified for the strategic planning session in July?
Yes, we have a tentative date on the calendar for Saturday, July 24th. I had sent all of you poll in email a few weeks ago asking for everyone to respond to a couple of different dates that I was proposing. The majority of the people who responded selected July 24th, so it's tentatively scheduled for that date. If
I just meant time of the day. I have a flight that day, so I just want to try to work around time.
I'm sorry, 9 a.m. to 12:30 p.m.
Thanks, David.
Any other trustee comments? David, I had one. Someone had approached me about an idea for the idea box for a theme for a presentation, who is the best person for them to reach out to?
I would suggest that either that individual complete a program proposal form that can be found on the library's website, or they can reach out directly to me and I can direct their suggestion to the appropriate staff person.
Perfect, thank you. We will now go on to staff reports.
So we have, I have my narrative report as usual. We have our library strategic priorities report, and we have our core use statistics report. In the interest of time, I won't necessarily call it anything specifically for elaboration. So, but if any of you have any questions about any of the three reports in this section, I'm happy to answer them. And then we have a couple of staff members, Jennifer Norborg, our manager for children's services, and Stephen Jackson, our manager for teen services, who are going to talk a little bit about programs that are planned for youth and teens this summer. I know some of you last month asked for some additional information about those programs, and so both Jennifer and Stephen are happily here tonight to talk about that.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Stephen Jackson, the manager of Teen Services, and I did have a brief slideshow, but as those who got on the call a little earlier realized that I do not have internet connection, so I am currently on my phone. But I wanted to share with you a few things that we're doing this summer in regards to teen activities at the library. At the moment, we are currently waiting on furniture to be delivered. As you all know, that we have an intentional delivered teen space. We're really excited about that. The young people who helped us design that space is a group called the Leading Edge Teen Advisory Board that we started a little bit over a year and a half ago. And their mission is to guide teen-centered perspectives to Oak Park community and to the teen services team. Their vision is Our Voices Matter. They meet monthly, once a month, and they're starting to bump it up to 2 times a month. And more recently, they had an ice cream social. I don't know if any of you attended or were aware, but they had an ice cream social on the 12th of June, very well attended. They were able to wear the t-shirts that one of the teams designed, the logo for the board. They've also all taken on tasks, and they will be attending a board meeting. That's part of the requirements of their participation in the advisory board. So they will continue to meet this summer, and like, as I mentioned, they help guide us on what we should do as a teen services department. They were instrumental in helping design the teen space, and they will when we do finally, the last delivery will be coming in on August the 23rd, but the one prior to that will be July the 12th. And after July 12th, they will come in and help us place the furniture in the teen space. So we're really excited about that. We also started an environmental club, and they had their first meeting this past weekend. They've adopted Euclid and Ontario. It's a block that they've adopted, so they cleaned up that block this past weekend. I had some photos, as I shared. Internet is down and I'm working from my phone. They met this past weekend. We're really excited about that. We also started a book club. They will continue to meet monthly. The first book that they have read is The Hunger Games, and the second book they're currently in the process of selecting the book. And the final thing that we will be doing, or there's 2 other things, but the next thing that we'll be doing is the teams will be helping to create staff development videos to help the staff learn teen engagement and teen brain development research so that they can understand how to address teens. And it's also an opportunity for the staff to be in the video. The teens will be in the video, and it's an opportunity for them to engage with the staff and to learn their names and learn them on a more personal basis. So we'll be filming that this summer, and we will roll it out in the Learn While You Earn for the staff to learn about teen engagement. And finally, oh, that was the final thing. I'm sorry. And that's what we have this summer going on. We're looking forward to the school year starting. We've partnered with the librarian at the high school. We're looking for ends to the District 97 as well, but we're really excited about the school year starting and being in person, in particular the teen space, getting that up and running. So those are some things that we do have going on. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Thank you, Stephen. Does anyone have any questions for Stephen?
I'm just really excited to hear that the teens are going to have their own space. Especially as we're coming out of COVID, I'm excited that there will be a safe and welcoming place that they can go sort of immediately as the world is reopening. We're making them a priority and making their space a priority. So Stephen, please thank your group for taking their time to come up with all the furniture and everything that they needed for that space, and I hope they enjoy it.
Jennifer, are you on the call?
I am here. Thank you. I am going to be very quick and brief. There's a lot going on, but I know that there's a lot. This is going to be a long meeting, and I want to be as brief as possible, but there's a lot of wonderful things happening in the children's department right now. And Stephen, thank you for that wonderful explanation of what's going on with you. But in terms of the children's department, we are right now, story time wise, we are partnering with the park district. We're having outside story times weekly at a number of parks, including Scoville, Maple, Euclid Square, Taylor, and Lindbergh Park. We had a wonderful Juneteenth story time featuring Wanta Griffin, and that kind of launched us for the summer. And it was a really, really, really cool situation with a bunch of families. We are also offering weekly Zoom story times. The book bike is coming to all of the story times in the park, so families can access the collection on the go. We are also doing Dallas Story for families who can't attend the classes and they want to create their own story times via their phone. And also summer reading. I talked to Genevieve today, and as of today, we have over 1,600 signups for the summer reading program. And one particular comment was families are really, really glad that it's activity based as opposed to timing reading based, because especially after this year, people I think really want to have it needs to be focused on joy rather than hardcore reading timing. So Genevieve mentioned today that a family emailed her because they did one of the SRP events, which involved looking at the stars, and they were we all went out in our backyard and we laid on a blanket and looked at the stars. So for what it's worth, it was just really beautiful. Also, Year of the Monarch, Veronica is awesome, and so many people are awesome doing all of the Year of the Monarch stuff. We have 2 pollinator gardens at Main and Maze. And on June 12th at the conservatory, we had more than 100 people attend. There's going to be a big bike tour of the pollinator gardens in collaboration with the bike walk. In terms of programming and children's, so much is happening this summer. We are having, with Luis, we're having chess champs programs in June and July. We're having a really fabulous, awesome drag queen story time on July 9th. There's also a zine program that's happening. And yeah, the Idea Box, Wanta did a fantastic Juneteenth exhibit in the Idea Box, which I hope everybody got a chance to see. And Hal Patnott is organizing a display of pride, like the history of the pride flag in the idea box. So, and how it has changed over the years. So I'm kind of like all over the place, but I'm trying to like, there's so much happening and I don't have a lot of time. So I just want to like spew out everything that's awesome that is happening in children. So that is my spiel. So thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Jennifer. Does anyone have any questions for Jennifer?
I wanted to say that I just signed up my my rising third grader for the chess with Luis. So he's to do that in person and has missed it. So we're happy. I don't know, Jennifer, that you would know, but do we have a sense of when something, like when some of the programming might be in person indoors again? Do we have a sense of that kind of timeline at all? Or David, maybe?
In terms of like in-person programming for children's, we are holding off on that until all kids under the age of 12 can be vaccinated. So that is sort of our touchstone in terms of like what's safe and what's okay. And it's funny. We just answered a like contact us thing of a woman who was like, I miss the library so much. I miss being there in person. And yeah, we all feel the same way. We really want to all be in person, but we just have to wait until it's super safe. So thank you for that comment. And like, yes, Luis is awesome and he's especially awesome in person. So we're all looking forward to that day, but it will happen.
Thank you.
Jennifer, can you tell me where's the best place to find the list for story time since they're going to be moving around to the different parks?
If you go to the website and you look on the like website calendar, it will be very clear. But if you have any, specific questions, I'm more than happy to like answer if you email me specifically. Also, Shelly Harris, who is the person who is the Storytime guru who organizes everything. If you have any specific Storytime questions, feel free to reach out to Shelly Harris.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Jody Colo just dropped a website link into chat as well, if you'd like to take a look at that.
Thank you, Jody.
Okay, any other questions for the staff regarding from the board on the summer youth programs? Okay, so any other questions from the board regarding any of the other staff reports, David's report, our priorities, or the statistics? Okay, then we will move on to item 6 of our agenda, the library board position applicant presentations. I think it's safe to say all of us were very surprised with the outpouring of interested parties for the vacant seat on the board. We ended up receiving 26 applications during the time frame that we had set up. Earlier today, I did receive, and the board received, a communication from Luann Johansson that she is withdrawing her name for consideration. So we are now at 25. I will be calling folks' names alphabetically by last name as they were filled out in the form on our website. Given that we have a potential of 25 people speaking, please keep it to 5 minutes or less. It's already going to be pushing 2 hours for everyone, and so just to try and make tonight as productive as possible for the board, and hopefully allow us time to make it a decision if possible. Some folks have emailed me about it, and I would like to clarify. We do have an action item on our agenda towards the end of the meeting for a selection to fill the vacancy. That was an optimistic agenda item on my part, so that if after the board's deliberations, we were able to reach a consensus on a person, that we would be able to make that action tonight. But it is as equally possible that we are not able to get there given the information at hand, and we will need to proceed to another meeting regarding as this decision. So I don't know what the odds are that we will have a decision tonight after our closed session. I think every trustee is coming into this with a different set of perspectives. During your time, this will be an opportunity for the board to hear from you. So please treat that accordingly. And we will begin. I did this correctly.
Matt?
Yes.
Would you like me to keep this agenda on the screen, or would you like me to stop sharing the screen?
I believe you can stop sharing the agenda. All right. The first name I have is Vicky Bielansky.
Hi, my name is Vicky Belansky. I submitted my statement online, so in the interest of time, in the interest of your time, I decided not to make a statement tonight, but thank you.
Thank you, Vicky. All right. Melissa Bird. I do not see Melissa in the attendee list, so we will, if I call anyone's name and they are not in the meeting, I will call them again at the end in case they are having trouble joining and join us later.
Matt, I noticed in the list that after Vicky, there was Marta Siegel Block, and I'm wondering whether on your list you have her as Siegel or Block.
I alphabetized by how it was entered in the form, and she entered in the form the last name I believe is starting with Siegel. So
That's fine.
So Sarah Corbin.
Okay, I have prepared a written statement that I'm going to read just so I can keep it short and sweet so we can get through the meeting. So my name is Sarah Corbin. I'm the current communications manager at Beyond Hunger. I've lived in Oak Park nearly all my life, but for the past at least 10 years, I've devoted much of my work and volunteer life to supporting this community. I've worked for the Oak Park River Forest Chamber of Commerce and Wednesday Journal Publications. I've been a Girl Scout leader, a service unit leader. I've volunteered for Housing Forward, and I currently serve on the Village of Oak Park, the Liquor Commission Review Board. In my professional life, I have had the opportunity to work for publishers and authors, and had a wonderful time attending a number of national library conferences. I think it's really helped me understand the role that the Oak Park Public Library can play nationally. And then those two questions. First, how do I view the primary mission of the library? Of course, I feel very intimately that the library's main mission is to offer free and open access to resources and education. It's this economic equalizer, if it were, and I think it's truly a part of my personal story in this community. I am a renter, and I would not be able to afford a home in Oak Park. And quite honestly, my family has not always had a stable financial existence. But when I wanted to begin a business, I could access resources I'd otherwise have had to pay for. When we couldn't afford summer camp, the summer reading program offered my family a creative outlet that others may have had through paid programming. I feel that as a board member, I would bring that perspective from someone who is unable to be a homeowner in this community, but who has a tremendous amount of investment in Oak Park. You know, I also currently sit on an internal racial equity committee at Beyond Hunger. And while the library, like Beyond Hunger, has always worked toward ending racial disparities, I feel like this anti-racist work that the committee at Beyond Hunger, and I know the Oak Park Public Library is working toward this too, it's allowed us the time to have more overt conversations about actions we can take to enact change. And I know that that's work I would be very enthusiastic about continuing through my service on the Oak Park Public Library Board. And the second question, how do you approach the balance between service expectations and concerns for the tax burden? And so should I be selected, I would really view my primary role in helping achieve that balance by helping to maintain transparency in our communications. Certainly in my professional career, I've advised organizations and nonprofits and businesses on the importance of transparent communications. And I know that this word may have been a bit overused in the past election cycle, but it's not just because transparency to me is not just about that ethical principle. It also, it's important because it helps us tell the story. So transparent communications show just how closely delineated the budget is. And I really believe that that can help any community or constituency more fully understand any possible budgetary limitations. And that's it. Thank you for the opportunity to present and offer my service.
Thank you very much. Next, I believe we have, and as all, please bear with me through my pronunciations, and Dvoretsky. I don't see her on the attendance, so we will move along. Then Suzanne Fairfax.
Hello. So I also submitted something in via email, but then received the questions about the two particular questions. So I'm not focusing as much on my background. You've got that information. I'm focusing more on those questions. Oh, I was going to set a timer. Hold on one second so that I don't or a stopwatch. Okay. So what do you see as the primary mission of the library? The library mission reads, we share the information, as you know, we share the information, services, and opportunities that fulfill Oak Park's aspirations. And then as further clarification, I see it says community aspirations are identified as literacy, education, diversity, inclusion, equity, empathy, health, safety, and affordability. I agree with this mission and stated aspirations. I believe that a community's library system is central to supporting the values of the community. It makes resources accessible to everyone in the community that offer an opportunity to truly grapple with the challenges of past and present realities. We are currently at an inflection point in history regarding race and equity. Libraries play a significant role in this moment. It is well past time for Oak Park to live into our reputation as a diverse community and create an equitable one. At the event last Wednesday, Reclaiming Our History, Telling the Story of Westgate, Christian Harris stated that although he grew up in Oak Park, he has always felt like a guest, an invited guest, he said, but a guest. This needs to change. It is promising to see that the library's plan for anti-racism is not tangential, but integral as a fourth strategic priority along with engagement, learning, and stewardship. In my work in support of equity, I've seen that such ability to re-envision and fully embrace change is essential. When I formed and served on the Diversity Committee for the Society of Children Book Writers and Illustrators, Illinois, from 2015 to 2019, We made progress and witnessed some change in the children's literature world, but the 2021 international reckoning with ongoing racial harm in the US has significantly accelerated that change. Oak Park Library should embrace this moment and make changes in Oak Park. The children and adults in our community deserve to see themselves reflected appropriately in materials, displays, programs, and library staff. In order to support the mission of sharing information, services, and opportunities that fulfill Oak Park's aspirations, I believe that an equity lens needs to be applied to every item that the board addresses. For the second question, how do you approach the balance between service expectations and concerns for the tax burden? I personally understand the concerns about taxes in Oak Park. My wife and I moved from Elmwood and Jackson to Taylor and Division during the economic adjustment in 2005. We called it Honey, I Shrunk the House. We selected a smaller home on a smaller lot in order to lower our taxes. I have empathy for those who are concerned about taxes and take seriously the community aspiration to be an affordable community. I also understand how valuable the library and services are to other community aspirations. I believe that if the board uses an equity lens to look at everything, including budget and tax burden, then the balance between service expectations and concerns for tax burden will be managed well. Additionally, it seems to me that taxes can be misunderstood and oversimplified, and often blamed for things that they're not really, it's not really accurate. So between 2009 and 2019, I saw that the library's tax levy request grew on average 2.37% each year and included a 10% reduction in 2016. So 2.37% increase represents an average increase of $11 per tax bill. I understand that you as the library board know all this, so I'm kind of addressing this also to the community because I think a lot of times in Oak Park, we think, oh, our taxes, so we have to cut. But I think that if we look at the bigger picture, there's issues about the state that goes toward Oak Park taxes being high. If you also look at surrounding communities, you look at Maywood, and they have high taxes percentage-wise. It's just not as simple as we think. And we need to make sure that cutting taxes does not undermine the actual intention of the community and of the library. So I think, and to cut back, I've heard lovely stories tonight from the Children's Committee and the teen group about having spaces for teens and children coming out of this pandemic. We cannot cut those, and we cannot have the wealthy in our community have their kind of tax burden lessened at the expense of the more marginalized and precarious in our community. So I do think if we put an equity lens to that, as well as everything else, that will really help if I'm elected, or I mean, on the board. And I've started to get a little nervous, sorry. I really appreciate your time, and I appreciate so much the transparency and care that you've taken with this entire process. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Suzanne. Next, Nathan Green. Do not have him in our attendance list, but sometimes people end up logging in on a name that pops up differently, so I want to give everyone that chance to speak up. Okay, we will move on. The next in alphabetical order is David Gulberson. He had emailed me the other day to notify me that he would be traveling today and not be attendance, and the same is true for Deborah Caden, who had emailed me and to let me know that she would not be in attendance tonight. So we will go ahead and move past David. That will lead us to Christopher Hamilton.
Hello, thank you. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Chris Hamilton, and you have, again, as others have said, you have my background information, so I ask you to take a look at that in a statement I submitted online. I just have a couple of quick things that I'd like to do today, and that's address the questions that Matt sent in his email earlier yesterday, I guess it was. Again, my name is Chris Hamilton. I've been in Oak Park for 15 years. I have a wife, 2 kids, ages 10 and 12. And to address the 2 questions today, the primary mission of the library, and then discuss the balance between the service expectations and the tax burden concerns, which are real concerns here in Oak Park. The main library is really a beautiful building, and if you've walked across Scoville Park on a snowy winter night, looking at it, it shines and it almost looks like mountains. And I think of that, and I think this library is really the centerpiece of our community, and it is the town square of Oak Park in many ways. I spent hours in the library from toddler story time many years ago to, I guess I'm there almost every other week with my kids getting out another bag of books. I spent time there in my professional life studying for some certifications, finding a quiet corner, a small room to get out of the house and get away from the office and really focus on what I needed to do. But the library is more than a building, and it's more than a space. I see the library as a community, and an inclusive community. And it's a community that teaches, learns, and exchanges ideas. That's how I see the primary mission of the Oak Park Public Library, that of nurturing this community, providing access to all the community members in a safe space, allowing community members of Oak Park to teach, to learn, and to exchange ideas. And that's all well said, but and maybe a little bit pie in the sky, if you will, but there's the reality of funding, and that goes to the second question. 99% of the revenues of the library come from property tax. There's inflationary pressures, expenses are going up. How does one balance the very real concern that Oak Park people have over their growing tax bills and the need to provide access to all and to provide services to everyone in the community? I believe it hinges really on remaining very visible in the community and continuing to sell. And I think this is part of the job of the trustees, continuing to sell the value of the library. The library is not a commodity. When I go to the store to buy milk, and I'm from Wisconsin, so I know milk, I buy the cheapest gallon. Milk's a commodity. I might buy organic, or I might buy regular milk, but it's all the same. It's a commodity, and I'm going to buy really what's cheapest there in front of me. When I go to buy a laptop, I'm willing to pay more for that laptop. I'm willing to pay more for something that me and my family can use, something that fits our needs. I have options. I choose what has positive reviews and that meets our needs. I think it's critical for in answer to the second question, critical for us to continue to be visible, to sell the value of the Oak Park Public Library to the community. And I think that's how I would balance that expectations and concerns. We have to sell the library not as a commodity, not as a gallon of milk, but as a laptop. Thank you for your time today. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. Next I have Kendall Harvey. Do not have Kendall in the attendees list, the participants list. Just give it a chance. Okay. Next, Bernice Haskins. Bernice. Okay. Carol Yago?
Thank you. It's Jago, by the way.
Jago, okay.
That's fine. That's fine. Good evening, everyone. I'm Carol Jago, a longtime high school English teacher in Santa Monica, California. But I grew up in Chicago, where the Scottsdale Chicago Public Library on 79th Street was my second home. When, as department chair in Santa Monica, I worked very closely with our public library on our one city, one book program, on connecting that with the high school summer reading program. And so issues about teen programs and a library being a magnet for young people has always been really close to my heart. When I was elected president of the National Council of Teachers of English, I came back to Chicago for reasons of family. And now I serve on the executive board of the International Literacy Association. I'm author of many books for teachers, the most recent being the book in question, Why and How Reading is in Crisis, because it seems to me that all over America, parents and teachers are wringing their hands about, oh, kids won't read. And I believe there is so much we can do that can bring students to reading and thinking, which brings me to the question of the mission of the Oak Park Public Library, because I believe libraries are much more than repositories of books. I believe libraries are a forum of ideas, of diverse stories, of information, and that the mission of a library is to create community engagement with those ideas, which again directly leads to your second question about tax dollars. As a homeowner in Oak Park, I know the pinch of the property taxes, but I believe every one of those dollars is an investment, and an investment not just in Oak Park, but in our nation, in the future of democracy. That all we hear is division, and what we need is to think harder, read more, know more. I believe that with reading comes empathy, and we understand one another, and we can step outside of our own isolation that I believe is part of what we're caught up in. The village has a choice. It can use its tax dollars to create Fortress Oak Park, or it can invest in a different kind of community where equity and social justice prevail. And call me a cockeyed optimist, but I really believe libraries can be vehicles for social change, and the gatherings of readers can be a force for a better world. I've applied here because I'd like to contribute to that change in Oak Park. Thank you for your time. Thank you for all you do. And these are wonderful people, whomever you choose. This is you will have a wonderful set of trustees. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carol. Okay. Pardon the paper shuffling. I'm unlike some others of my more youthful age, as I like to think of myself. I do like working with paper still, so I'm taking notes. So thank you, Carol. And then next is Deborah Caden, who will not be here. Next, then it would be Mary Kilbridge.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mary Kilbridge. I am a project manager, and I submitted a little bit more of my background on the application online, so I'll skip over that. But I am an avid reader and library goer. As far as the questions that were emailed by Matt, I see the primary mission of the library as really increasing the equity in the community. So through the social services that the library provides to identify patrons' needs and connecting them with other resources that they might not otherwise know about, with the access to technology, especially last year and during COVID, helping, with hotspots and just really helping, especially kids who are maybe struggling with school, providing a diverse selection of materials so everyone can see themselves represented, and just ensuring that the community knows what resources are available to them. Those are what I see as the main parts of a library's mission. And I view libraries really as the center of the community, which makes inclusivity and providing just a welcoming environment to everyone in the community so everyone can feel welcome and feel appreciated and involved. I feel that is a really vital part of the library's goal and mission. And as far as balancing the service expectations and concerns for the tax burden, as a project manager myself, I'm very familiar with having many different stakeholders who are concerned about costs, but also want top quality services. So that balance is difficult, and I would approach it by really considering which services are most aligned with the library and the community's vision for the future, and promoting services that are already in place to make sure that the community is aware of the benefits that they do have and that the libraries provide. Big part is, providing free books and movies and materials, but it's so much more than just checking out books and returning them and, coming back the next week. The community should be aware of everything that the library has to offer. And just on a personal note, once the library reopened last year, I think in July, during COVID, that was a really important part for me to be able to go there and feel like I was a part of the community, even when it was sort of difficult during COVID and not a lot of activities were going on. So just a very special thing to me. And I really thank you so much for your time and for everything you do. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary. Okay. Now we will have Molly Lowe.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here and for the opportunity to speak. My name is Molly Lowe. I've lived in Oak Park now for 3 years, although in the greater area, Forest Park before that, so for 5. I actually grew up in Hyde Park on the south side of Chicago and, really see a lot of similarities between the communities and spent a lot of time at Chicago Public Libraries growing up and, throughout my life, and now into Oak Park where I have a 5-year-old son and really get to enjoy. I live close to the Mays Library and get to enjoy the library as a whole. I'll touch on my background briefly just to say that I've really been sort of involved in the intersection of health and education and social services as my passion. So I was in AmeriCorps where I worked in Head Start classrooms, improving language and literacy skills among students there. And that really kind of fostered my interest in that area. But my graduate work is in public health. And so as you can imagine, the last year has been both sort of devastating and interesting and really an opportunity, I think, around the sort of education and public health space. I've spent time as a health educator at Planned Parenthood and also working as a public health consultant with health departments around substance abuse prevention and mental health promotion, which I think people don't often really understand are actually really key issues for libraries, as many people in the community use libraries as a respite for opportunities to seek out resources in the community, similar to actually to Planned Parenthood. When I worked there, people would come and seek out resources around housing and jobs and other places as well. So I think that's an important part of libraries that aren't always thought about And in my work now, I'm really focused on kind of content strategy across professional development and then publishing as well of resources and academic research for healthcare providers. And so working with the American College of Healthcare Executives and really been focused on kind of meeting their needs throughout COVID across the country and closing gaps there in education. So I think that really brings me into the questions addressed around the mission of the library. So I really see public libraries as a gateway to the community. I also see them as a place, and this is rooted obviously in the mission that's written for the library itself, but around meeting communities' information needs, but also services that sort of help remove barriers, address gaps for individuals in the community, and create learning and engagement opportunities. So like I said, that also includes navigating jobs, having access to the internet, improving health literacy, housing, et cetera. And I think that then a big part of the library's mission is engaging the community and connecting them to other existing resources, because the library can't be everything to everyone, but it's often a gateway for people into connection with other really great and important resources in the Oak Park community. And I think that that's an important piece that the library fills. In regards to stewardship and sort of balancing service expectations and concerns for tax burden, I don't think it's necessarily the library's role to sort of advocate for a lobby around taxes, but I do think it's really critical for libraries to think about how obviously they use taxpayer money and use it wisely. So input from the community and key stakeholders around that usage is really important. Awareness of existing services and making sure that people understand what they can get from the library as it is and how that money is being used, and transparency there. And then, like I said before, I think connecting with other community resources, because that bridge and that connection is really critical in sort of maximizing the impact of the library and taxpayer dollars that goes to it. I also think a really big piece of that is sort of evaluation and continuous quality improvement. So, what was really valuable and worked for the community a year and a half ago, we all see this now, things have changed. And so understanding, for example, I, do a lot of work in online learning and mobile first and digital, et cetera. And, there's been a large divide and sort of a digital divide and internet and literacy in that space. But in reality now, we're moving to a world where, everyone has a smartphone, and a lot of people actually have more access to the internet and resources on their phone than on, for example, a laptop or other kind of computer. And so how do we navigate that and address those needs at the library to meet the needs of the entire population? And that's where I think the equity pieces really come in too, as well. So those are kind of my answers to the questions, and thank you again for the opportunity to speak here. I really appreciate it, and I really value the library and all that it's doing.
All right, thank you, Molly. Our next would be Juan Munoz.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to the board and to the community. I wanted to address the two questions primarily, since you have my background, as many others have said, and kind of touch on the mission of the library, which I believe is there's a passive and an active component to it. Passively, obviously, offering wealth of knowledge and resources for those who come seek it, and then an active component to promote that out into the community, make sure that the community is aware of it. And I think it's important particularly to advocate the services to those who may not have the opportunity to seek it out. So working families, people who don't have a lot of free time to be able to go out and seek these resources, being able to connect with them in some way through either partnering through community programs or actively promoting it directly. I think that's very important. The reason I find that it's important is that I feel like there's a lot of resources that I'm finding now as an adult that I feel that, the work that you all are doing with the teen services, that if I would have had access to a lot of the information, some of the resources earlier on, it might have made things a little bit easier for myself, for my family growing up. And being able to be a part of that would be tremendously tremendous honor to me. And the other question I wanted to address was the balancing the needs of the community with the tax burden. In reality, it's, there's a lot of tough decisions that people make every day. We did growing up with limited resources, whether that's money, that's time, whether that's energy. And, part of my role on the board of directors for Great Kids Inc., a nonprofit that I'm a part of, is making some of those tough decisions, understanding the limitations that we have with the money coming in and the time and the energy of the staff. There's only so many things you're able to do in an 8-hour period. And sometimes difficult choices need to be made, and understanding the priorities of the community and how to reflect that in the services that you provide is a difficult balance, but ultimately it's a decision that falls onto the board of trustees, the board of directors. And that's something that I feel like I have a good amount of experience with, and I would love to lend some of that to the board of directors for Oak Park. I apologize, don't have a lot of comments and not a great public speaker, but I appreciate the time, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much, Juan. All right. Next, I have Chidinma Oseneme. Do not see her in the participant list, so we will move on. Ira Regard.
Yes. Hello. Awesome. 1 second. Great. Well, thank you so much. And again, as others have said, I submitted to the my documents as well, so I'll keep this fairly brief. But my name is Ira Rigo. I'm a recent arrival, I guess, to Oak Park. I've been here for a couple of years, I guess, just before the pandemic, and really wanted to kind of address the 2 core questions that were shared. First, around kind of the mission. So I really do resonate with the vision around every voice, around empowering every voice in the community. I think it's a really powerful vision. And for me, that means a couple of things. One, I think empowering means like that the notion of providing resources and support, and every there starts to mean that it's equitable access for all. And I think it becomes an important distinguisher of how we hope to provide resources and support. The voice part is powerful too, because I think it's like both like empowering every voice, like this notion of all the different voices of our community, but also I think like the use of the word voice there, I think for me, then it implies the importance of listening to all, and that the voices in our community are active builders of the community that the library helps to form. And I think the fact that they were saying that it's empowering every voice in the community really makes it that it's grounded in people and in encounter, that the library becomes that space for again, listening to people, to the participants, to those who are there for an afternoon because they were invited by a friend, those who've been living in Oak Park for forever. But it's also, the energy and the engine of that is the encounter one has with knowledge, with resources, with each other, with the broader community, I think is really at the core of that. So I think that encounter is the heart of the mission. And so when I think about the second part of that, of the prompt, like what does it mean to kind of balance priorities and resources? I think as others have said, I think my first core thing that I think consider there is trust. So that it's important as a trustee to trust the staff and the director to lead on the ground, to do that important work on a daily basis that I think that we heard of at the beginning of this call, the teen and the youth work, that I think is critical, that's what makes the library run. And so I think trusting the staff to be great staff, I think is a really important element of that. I think it also means trusting the community to leverage those resources. So it's not a pure if you build it, they will come, but knowing that when things are built, when things are designed in a way that the community can access it, then then they'll be more likely to leverage them. And also trusting the community to be stretched and to grow. A conversation around equity that we're having today would not have been a conversation that could have happened as easily 20, maybe even 5 years ago. And so to think about the ways in which the library is part of helping the community stretch and grow is important as well. Last two elements there are transparency, as others have said. So one thing I want to add around transparency there is I think transparency is also a core issue around equity. So homeowners and people who physically pay a check to this village aren't the only voice, right? Renters, those in community housing, young people, and future residents. And so when I think about what stewardship means, it means grounding us in a vision that's going to be, building for today, but also promoting a vision that's going to, and sustainable vision that's going to mean that the library is going to be around in 100 years, 200 years to provide the same resources and encounters that it's providing now. So again, thanks for your time, and thanks for this opportunity.
Thank you, Ira. The next, I don't know, I think we may skip this next one. No, I'm kidding, James. James Robinson Perron.
Aaron, thank you. I'm sorry, I saw your original one and it had me before, so sorry about that. Thank you, everybody. Over the last few months during this pandemic, I found I had a lot of time to fill. And so I did what I normally did, and I sought out books and media en masse. Usually I go to the library. I tend to go at least once or twice a week. And for a time it was closed, and I went and found other suppliers, the book table on Lake, Best Buy, and even the dreaded Amazon. And quickly I found that even trying to keep all my costs down by buying used books, by waiting for deals and deals on media, that I had spent far more doing this than I ever really paid in taxes for the same library services. But even at twice the price, the library is a bargain. I pay a sizable amount in the property taxes, and most of it goes toward a school system that I don't use. But I pay it gladly because I know the cost of progress is steep. And progress means that those who can, like me, a homeowner, do for those who cannot. As a teacher in CPS, I know that quality information is priceless. And here at Oak Park, we have access to almost any book, DVD, and educational resource at our fingertips. And I know how remarkable firsthand and a privilege that is. I know because I work in these communities where these resources are just not there. I've seen what happens in the community where there isn't access or limited access just to a good library. I deeply appreciate that we have a first-class institution here in Oak Park, and I believe that should be protected at any reasonable cost, even at twice the price for me. But the library is more than just a collection of books and media. What the library means to me is community building, not just in our town, but across borders in the Austin community, and Berwyn, and Cicero, and Galewood, and beyond. It's the educational resources available to any interested mind, no matter their ability to pay. It is the nexus of the communal spirit that brings together people of all types toward common goals. It's the instigator and the incubator of the public discourse. It's overdue conversations about equity in our town, the application of what it might look like. It is all these things and more. The library's primary mission to me is to enable the community to move forward and engender the communal spirit beyond our current space into the future, whether that's 100 years from now, whether that's 200 years from now. As long as there's an Oak Park, there needs to be a library. I'm more than a patron. I'm a former Mays Branch Shelver. I'm a Farmers Market Board Commissioner and a 34-year resident of Oak Park. I have seen firsthand the changes the library has undergone, and I'm excited for the future. I'm excited about these conversations you're starting to have. And now all I'm asking the board to do is seriously consider me for the open position. I'm ready to work with you and for us Oak Parkers. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, James. The next is Kelly Schweitzer.
Hello, my name is Kelly Schweitzer. I've lived in Oak Park for the past 5 years. Have a background in public health, and the most important thing that I got out of that was that education plays an important role in your overall health. So I kind of feel that the library should have, or the mission of the library, right, should be to promote education and learning within the community and make that accessible to everybody. And the pandemic has highlighted the fact that there is a gap in our community of who has access to certain resources and who doesn't. And so the library should be a place that everybody should have access to equally, to make sure that they can get the education and the resources that others have access to. And so providing the resources, though, doesn't always necessarily mean physical books. It could be digital content or skills-based classes that could level the playing field as far as resources are concerned or learning is concerned. And so having those resources, it's great that we have this library in our community that provides those resources to those who may not have it. That obviously comes at a cost. And so we talk a lot about the taxes, especially as a homeowner here, and how much we're willing to pay for that. So I think that it's important to look at that. We need to be transparent and understand where our money for the library is being spent, and make sure that make sure that patrons are using all of the services that the library is spending money on, and make sure that we're offering different services and thinking outside the box in new ways to make sure that we are meeting the needs of the community as it relates to our spending. So thank you for your time tonight, and the opportunity to speak, and hopefully I will be a great addition to the library board.
Thank you very much, Kelly. Next, Marta Siegel-Block.
Great. Hi. Hopefully we will get through this without either a dog or a child making embarrassing noises. It's really just amazing. I'm really enjoying listening to everybody. There are probably, if I'd known there were this many qualified and talented and excited people applying, I might have stayed out of it. But as others have said, I submitted a form with sort of my background and my connection to the library and to Oak Park and my professional experience in this realm. So I'll let you look on that. But as to the questions that you asked, I believe the primary mission of the library is to serve as a point of connection for the community, and a point of connection around certain issues of education, information, culture, entertainment, personal development. And I think that connection is really sort of the key to the second question as well. I think, when you're trying to balance between service expectations and tax burdens, there are different ways you can approach it. There's obviously the fact that, we can't have everything. So you fund the highest impact or the most used or the most needed programs. And you're tracking all that and figuring all of that out. Another way you address the question is, as other people have also said, is just making sure that people are aware of the services that they and their neighbors are already receiving. I thought James put it beautifully when he talked about how when he couldn't use the library, he spent twice as much money. And it's not always that even you can always compare those two things, but I see all the time in the, local social media groups where somebody will say, oh, my cousin in Naperville says their library has this, why don't we? And the truth is that we do have it. They just don't know it. And it's not anything that anybody's doing wrong in terms of publicizing things. It's just that we only know the things we know. And so that to me comes back to the first question, which the answer to the first question, which is about connection. Making sure that people understand this connection and feel this connection is really key. The more connected people are, the more likely they are to use the services, the more likely they are to interact, the more likely they are to understand the value that they're receiving. So to me, the mission and how you solve that second question are kind of connected. And as I said, I've been just really, really enjoying listening to everybody and feeling like so many people in this community are so much on the same page about these important issues. And it's just really a joy. So thank you.
Thank you, Marta. Next, I have Mary Louise Saturn. Oh, Sedum, I'm sorry.
You got it right the second time, Sedum. Thank you very much. And good evening, everybody. I am going to set a timer right now because when I looked at the number 26 and multiplied it by 5, I came out with 2 hours and 10 minutes. So I would like to come in way under that. Thank you for this opportunity. I too submitted a background statement, mainly highlighting about 30 years in the nonprofit arena between a national association and higher education. So I'd really like to reflect on the 2 questions that you asked us to address tonight. Number 1, how do we see the primary mission of the library? The Oak Park Public Library clearly outlines its vision and mission and strategic plans of the institution. And the mission states, and this is a quote, "We share the information, services, and opportunities that fulfill Oak Park's aspirations." I think the mission is met through the vision statement. And this is another quote. It is to empower every voice in the community. The 3 largest types of libraries in the country are school libraries, so kindergarten through high school, higher education, so college, and public libraries. The first 2 have finite periods of time that a patron will be using them or have access to them. But a public library is lifelong. And that's what makes it really cool. And that's what is the most empowering aspect of it, especially if you get a good librarian when you're a kid and your parents are supportive of that, or an adult is supportive of that in your life. In my opinion, the word lifelong can be placed in front of many of the bullet points that I looked at that are on OPPL's strategic plan. For example, lifelong civic engagement and responsibility, lifelong diversity, lifelong education, lifelong access, lifelong equity, lifelong inclusion, lifelong learning, lifelong opportunity, lifelong service, lifelong sustainability, and lifelong transparency. And lastly, one of the tenets of librarianship, in my opinion, a lifelong dedication to intellectual freedom. Intellectual freedom is my right and your right and every patron's right to seek and receive information from all points of view without restriction. And I am plagiarizing that, I admit publicly, from the American Library Association. Those are not my words. That is how I choose to see the primary mission of the library. The next bullet point is a little bit more complicated, and it's hard. How would I approach a balance between service expectations and concerns for the tax burden? First and foremost, open and forthright communication. I believe that this executive director and this board of trustees has always been direct and professional with letting the community know what is going on with the institution financially. People have mentioned transparency, and I couldn't agree more. The library management and the board of trustees are going to continue to work together to identify answers that address taxpayer relief without causing financial difficulties for the library. Obviously, hopefully, elimination of services will be avoided at all costs. Ideally, there can be no reduction in staff. I'm going to the far end of the spectrum. it's funny because library services are perceived to be free, but they're really not. The exceptional services that we have cost money, and behind them are complex contract negotiations at a building level, maybe at a SWAN level, maybe at a state level. I don't know, but someone is paying for my free access to the Chicago Tribune and the New York Times, and I really appreciate it. And part of it's my tax dollars, but I have a feeling that it's other things that go into the budget as well. The tax base may actually decrease, but sadly, new and ongoing COVID-related expenses are going to be around, and they have to be around. They need to ensure the safety of both the staff and the patrons. Funding the library is essential for the recovery of the village of Oak Park and its residents, and our ability to move beyond this pandemic. We're so close to the end. If we're not at the end, we're so close. I'm not sure I have an answer for this, but I'm willing to learn about it and work towards it, and find a reasonable and successful solution. I know that schools and public safety are critical to a community, but so is the library. It's our right. And thank you for your time, and thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you very much. The next person I have is Therese Stewart.
Hi, I'm going to change my glasses because I was told I have librarian glasses, and these might be a little bit better for everyone to get to see me. No, just kidding. Hi, I am Therese Stewart. I am a resident of Oak Park. I grew up around this area. I've lived in Oak Park for about 4 years now, and one as a homeowner. So totally understand the whole tax conversation. But I will tell you a little bit about my background because I think it actually is indicative of what will help answer my questions. So many of the conversations people have had this evening have been so inspiring, so awe-inspiring. I literally want to vote for half of you and be like, well, that was great, and close down my window. But it also means that we, like someone said, I think it was Carol and Suzanne and Marie, that it means that we really care about our community, and that's super duper important. I am, yes, a troop leader for Girl Scouts, for cadets, seniors, and ambassadors. So I have the worst girls in America because they are middle school and high school girls, and they don't love anything. They hate it all. And I make them love it with things like this. And part of my background, again, is my degree is in communications and media. My daytime job is I am a vice president at Bank of America, and I make digital products. My team was the team that did all of the $16 billion worth of PPP loans for that bank. So we have been hard at work, head down, for the last year, making sure that small businesses got the much needed help and lifelines that they needed in order to be able to sustain. So I say that to say that to me, a library is a living place, right? Books seem like these places where stories can go to die, but they are actually these respites of communities. If you want to see a dead community, go to a library in that town. It'll tell you exactly what that town is, does, has, and how successful they are at teaching and leading and giving to this community, because you can tell by how dead their books are, right? My daughter, I have 2 kids. My daughter is 14, going on to Trinity this fall. My son is 17. He lives with his dad in Texas. And I remember very, very keenly my daughter walking into the library to check out a American Girl doll, and her getting her doll, and the hair on the doll was cut. And she was very adamant and angry about this. She did not cut the doll's hair. She marched right back up to the library and gave it back to the library and goes, "This is unacceptable. This doll is not appropriate for me to play with." But you know, a lot of what people have said is that it is access, right? We couldn't afford an American Girl doll at the time. My daughter was able to check one out at the library. And that was such an important piece for her to be able to walk into a library and not just get her books, but get these living, breathing items that are tangible and tactile that she could play with and have memories with and take pictures with and dress up with and play tea with, right? That is what our library means to so many different people in our community. When I was unemployed back in 2016, the library was my office, right? It was the place where I went to be able to apply for jobs and read and get some solace. It was a place that I went to when I needed to study for exams and things of that nature, as I just completed my bachelor's degree in communication and media as of 2021. It took me 23 years to do so. I say that to say that our library is a really important place. And just like we've all said, it is not about the activities that happen there. It is about the transparency and the communication of that transparency of how those dollars are used. Some things are expensive. I work at a bank, so I will tell you that things cost money, right? And so we definitely have to understand what the value is, right? I think people get so hung up on the dollars. We don't think about what the expectation and the output of those dollars are, right? So that may mean that we need new computers. That may mean we need higher speed internet. Those things cost, right? And so what is the value of that to our community, and what they can get on the output of that is so much more important than what we've put in. And yes, we definitely want to keep our tax dollars down. My dad always says, you want to, keep as much taxes as you possibly can. You don't want to pay the government. You want to keep as much as you possibly can. He was like, if you break even, you did it all right, right? And so that's not always possible. But I definitely want to thank you guys for your time today. I am really, really excited for whomever gets the seat. I will be back at the library either way. But definitely, my daughter even volunteered at the library. Our teens really, really need that space. And as we've all said, they've all been stuck at home, looking at a screen, that tactile, that community, that vibrancy. Libraries are no longer quiet places anymore. They are living, breathing entities. And I'm so excited to see this one grow, and as our community grows. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. Next, I have Matthew Thompson.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Matt Thompson. I guess one of the benefits of having the last name Thompson is that I'll be one of the last people on your mind. I'm going to go ahead and set my timer so that I don't go over. All right, so I have everything written out. It's going to sound a little businessy, so I apologize if that sounds a little abrupt. But okay, so my name is Matt Thompson. I am a software engineer, and I've been working in, let's see here, I've worked in the past as a computer technician or project manager. I've been a resident of Oak Park for 5 years now. I own an apartment building here and live in one of the apartments. This apartment was my gateway and means to move into the community and be a part of it. I've been interested in public service for a long time. I studied political science in college, and I found this opportunity to be the best way to throw my hat into the ring. Let's see here. So the two questions that we were asked of us: what do you see as the primary mission of the library? The basic mission of any library is to make materials accessible to the public. Yeah, that's from Wikipedia. And to be frank, that's a pretty lackluster mission. That was the only standard to which we held libraries. Going beyond that mission is what's important. I believe that a quality library provides something that people not only want to read or watch, but also provides some value to the reader. If the library is filled with comic books, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people would love to read that, but I don't think it would be providing nearly the same level of literary quality as something else. I think it's paramount that libraries go above and beyond this tenet and provide more than that. Books and movies will draw many people, but activities, workshops, speaking engagements, clubs, etc., are the things that separate a book repository from a quality library system. Moreover, I believe that libraries need to make its services accessible to people of all walks of life. That means making sure that all the libraries can be seen as a safe or judgment-free place for people who feel marginalized or out of place. Making sure that people feel like the library will welcome them is important. Ultimately, though, a library is judged on how much it provides to the community. And I think the library's primary mission is to make the library worth as much to the community as possible. All right, how do you approach the balance between service expectations and concerns for the tax burden? Well, I think the expectation of how the library affects the tax burden is probably the most important issue to address outwardly. I think that it's important to demonstrate value to the taxpayers of Oak Park. And I believe it's a function of providing services that are worthwhile and marketing these services to the public to convince them of this worth. As somebody else mentioned earlier, people ask, hey, I see this thing in another library system. Why doesn't Oak Park have it? Well, Oak Park did have it. Why don't they know? Maybe they weren't good at marketing. I don't know. The point, though, is that we need to be able to let people know the things that are happening, to let people know that there are worthwhile things happening. Like worthwhile, like what? Educational content, cultural content, speaking engagements, variety of activities for children, a safe space to learn, access to technology for low-income people, and a quiet place to do anything, reading, doing work, meeting with people. I've used the library countless times to meet and discuss things with people, both in college as well as outside of college. My primary approach for this question would be to make sure everyone in the community knows what the library is doing. Because, you know, if people saw the things that the library is doing and they like the things that the library is doing, I think they're a little less concerned about spending the money that they do. Whereas if they believe that the library system is nothing more than a place that holds books and videos, they may be thinking to themselves, I don't do that very much. Why are we spending so much money on it? I believe that marketing the library is all of the above and more is the way to sell the library's tax burden to the community. Anyways, I am running short on time, so I want to go ahead and leave it at that. Thank you guys very much, and I appreciate the opportunity you've given me.
Thank you, Matt. Next, Carolyn Walter.
Hello, my time came sooner than I thought. Because I did write and submit a personal statement and my professional resume, I'll dispense with those and mention and begin with the two questions that were asked of us. The first question, what do you see as the primary mission of the library? In my first notes regarding this question, I wrote to myself, the library's primary mission is to facilitate equitable learning and enrichment opportunities for enrichment opportunities for all community members. Later, in reviewing the Oak Park Library trustee position description, I was happy to see how closely my first response was aligned to the library's mission statement. The Oak Park Library enhances the quality of life in our diverse community by providing the resources and services for developing lifelong learning and enjoyment, the space and opportunity to gather and comment, and by fostering a love of reading. The library's mission statement does provide certain parameters that I do believe are important. The library cannot be all things to all people. The library can enhance other community organizations, but it should not duplicate or overlap them. One advantage of having a W last name has been hearing others, and I especially liked Molly Lowe's idea of the library serving as a gateway to other community services. An example of this collaboration with other community sources might be its targeted support of the collaboration for early childhood. I was, however, glad to see Trustee Foss's comments that his previous reservations regarding this partnership had diminished. It is important for trustees to keep an eye on these types of partnerships to respect boundaries and avoid overlap. Other entities foster other aspects of community, but nurturing a love of reading belongs at the core of the library's mission. As to the second question, How do you approach the balance between service expectations and concerns for the tax burden? Economic diversity, along with racial diversity, were major determinants in our selection of Oak Park as a community for our family. Honestly, I worry about maintaining these diversities as we move forward unless the library, as well as other taxing bodies, holds the line on budget expense and tax levy increases. I will offer one example. As I have tried to educate myself on the library and its current priorities, I am aware that a description for a new position of Director of Equity and Anti-Racism is being drawn up with the anticipation of posting it as soon as the end of this month. I am also aware that consultant Graham Washington has cautioned, and I quote, resisting throwing all anti-racism work here, meaning that position. This director position should command a substantive salary. I am not opposed to this position, but I am wondering where this position will fit into the library organization as a whole and from where the money will come. I have tried, but been unable to secure a flow chart of managers, coordinators, and staff / job descriptions, responsibilities, and accountability for library personnel online. Maybe this is something that needs to be addressed in terms of transparency. Perhaps I searched in the wrong places, or this type of flow chart is not available for public consumption. Does one exist? When was the last time a full look at library personnel responsibilities, and accountability was undertaken, delineated, and articulated? Would it be possible to realign responsibilities to meet consultant Graham Washington's admonition or fund this position without increasing the budget by cutting elsewhere? I am just asking as one way of looking at holding the line on budget. I realize I am a library budget novice, and if selected to serve, I would only echo Madarima's comment at the May meeting of the board when she spoke about meeting with the planning to meet with the financial director in order to educate herself on the budget, since this is an important aspect of board responsibility. I feel it is vital to constantly assess what services are most used and to rebalance the budget as necessary. Of course, building visits and use of actual books and materials have been down this year due to the pandemic, but these still stand at the heart of service expectations. According to the core use data statistics reports, 2021 numbers have been lagging 2020 averages. I appreciate Trustee Glavin's request to add the 2020 averages into the reporting mix as an additional point of reference. I am
Carolyn?
Yes.
If you could please wrap it up. You've gone over the 5 minutes. So if you could make a final point, I would appreciate it.
Yes. So I have had a few more points, but I will end with this, just saying that I appreciate all of the comments that have been made and feel that whoever's chosen, I'm impressed with the quality of the people who have put their names forward.
Well, thank you very much. And the last person I have is Karen Lee Williams. I do not have her name in the participants list. Is under another name. Did any of the other applicants who were not on earlier, who did not have a chance to speak, join Melissa, Ann, Nathan, Kendall, Bernice, Chinanima, or okay. Thank you, everyone, for your time this evening and sharing your thoughts with us. We are going to. Good night, girls. We are going to proceed with other items on the agenda, and the board will meet in will convene in closed session to deliberate on this. I will communicate with everyone who put their name forward tonight, regardless of where the board stands at the end of tonight's deliberations, whether we have made a choice or not. I will make sure that everyone gets a communication from me this evening via email to inform you as to what the next step in the process is. If anyone has any other questions, please feel free to throw them in the chat. I would just trying to, with so many people still on, I don't want to open up a cacophony as we have here. But I do, again, appreciate and thank you all for taking the time not only to apply, but to come tonight. This is a 2-year term. There are elections in 2 years. I hope some of you will consider stepping forward to run at that time. There's also the Friends of the Library, which is our support organization that helps in the past years has run the book fair, as well as other activities that, should you wish to continue working with the library and supporting the library's efforts, I would encourage you to look to get involved with that organization as well. And I appreciate all of your comments and your statements. And with that, the board will move on to our next item of agenda, our financial reports. You are all free to stay and watch us go through the rest of this business, or you are also free to go about your evening and wait for the email that will come when we are done with tonight's meeting. I will take neither choice personally. So we have our disbursements resolution. Does anyone have any questions about any of the transactions as they appeared in the report? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the report?
Moved.
Moved by Sarah. Is there a second?
Ted, second.
Okay. Moved by Sarah, seconded by Ted. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, will the secretary take the vote, please?
Virginia Bloom.
Aye. Did you hear me? Okay.
Colleen Burns.
Aye.
Madarima Chakravorty.
Aye.
Ted Foss.
Aye.
Matt Frith.
Aye.
Sarah Glavin is also an aye.
All right, that is approved. We will now move on to our financial narrative report.
Jeremy is also on the call this evening. If any of you have any questions about the narrative that he's provided to go along with your report tonight.
I'm trying to get to the page. Hold on 1 second.
I'm trying to scroll down on this, but.
What is it you're trying to see, Ted?
I want to look at the percentages of human capital and all of that. I wasn't really sure how this fit into Jeremy's report.
I'm sorry, what do you mean? You're not sure how it fits, Ted?
Well, I understood everything about how we've spent money in May, but then when we get to those things, human capital, support services, is this the percentage for up through this year, through this? I'm not exactly sure what the 40% compensation, 19% talent development.
40% of budget for the year.
Jeremy,
If you look at the income and expense,
Okay.
they should match up pretty close.
Sure.
Jeremy, are you on the call?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so if you look at the top of that financial report,
Mhm.
you'll see as of May, it shows 42%. It's basically a percentage of expenditure for the year.
Right.
So come December, it'll be 100% on that.
Right.
So it's broken down per month.
Mhm.
So then as you look down at the bottom, those percentages will give a kind of an ongoing run of where we are. So total human capital will just slightly under the 42% at 40% expended. Support services for that group, 41%. Library materials is pretty normal. That's under expended at this point, but then that fluctuates with publication and stuff like that. Then facilities, 34%. That, is kind of normal as well. So then as you can look down there, and basically it's to give you an idea of a little more granular within the specific account lines where we're spent for that percentage of the year. So total operating expenses were at 38%. Well, 42% of the year expended, so we're slightly underspent for the year.
Something like talent development, and we've used only 18% of our budget. We haven't spent that whole 42% of the year.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And so some of that can, like, if you look at the administration, there's 50%. So that's over expended.
Mhm.
But that's because it's front loaded, prepaid for insurance.
Okay.
So it kind of works both ways on that. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so I think the biggest one we want to keep an eye on is the total operating and then the capital. Capital, we have the one big project that's coming this year is the access control system. So that should be rolling out by the third quarter. We'll have that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Jeremy and Ted. Any other questions? Okay. We will move on to additional reports. iGov.
iGov hasn't met since our last meeting.
Okay. Then advocacy, yes, we did meet. Hold on, let me we're still working through our revisions on the Ready, Set, Advocate packet, and I think it's still coming. They're still working on it as 23 separate documents across a number of people working on it, as opposed to one large document. There was one other item I'm trying to remember. It was a couple of weeks ago, and we've had the end of the school year and everything else going on. So just a moment, let me see here.
Matt, I had a quick question, and this is, I think, a question for kind of general ILA conversation. I've heard some rumblings from the Secretary of State candidates that there's some conversation about kind of a common state library card. And I'm just curious if you've kind of in conversations with ILA heard anything or understood about kind of what they're driving at, if it's about access and equity or supporting rural communities. I just was curious if you've heard any conversations about that being floated from some of those candidates.
I haven't heard that from at the advocacy committee. That could have been something that got floated through the public policy committee. I'll follow up.
Okay,
And
I wasn't kind
ask.
of sure what it might mean for a system like
Sure.
ourselves, but clearly there are incredible deficits in certain communities around their library systems, and I can understand kind of the rationale of the conversation. I just was trying to understand like the intention a little bit better. If you hear anything.
For years and years, there have been debates in the state of Illinois about universal library service, because there are many areas of the state, particularly rural areas of the state, that are completely untaxed and unserved for library services. There are some states in the country that have universal service, which means that there are no unserved or untaxed areas of the state for library services. Illinois is not one of those states. As you can imagine, it's a very politically charged debate, and there's never really been any, I would say, substantive move in the direction of achieving universal service. So if that's what they mean by a state library card, that would be a pretty monumental political feat if they were able to achieve that. But again, it's been a debate in Illinois for a very, very long time.
It may just be campaign fodder. I think I was just trying to understand kind of what the intention of the purpose. That makes sense, David. Thanks for that.
It's just it's fascinating to hear the Secretary of State candidates talking about the role of the role of the Secretary of State as the head of the state library system. It usually I can't remember that coming up anytime Jesse White ran. Not as a knock against him, but like I just don't remember anybody ever like raising a question about it to him. So
Matt Madarima has a question in
Sure.
chat about the Books Empower grant. And yes, Madarima, we do plan to, and we're actually required to spend all of the money for the grant on the timeline. And I believe, Lori, you're on the call, correct me if I'm incorrect, but I believe that that grant period officially ends at the end of this summer or early fall. And we have to demonstrate that all of the funds have been expended by that point. Is that right, Lori? Maybe Lori dropped off the call.
She is October.
Okay. October. Thank you, Lori. Yeah. So our plan is to make sure that all of the grant funds have been expended.
I'm sorry. So do you mind if I ask, like, again, this is just as point of interest, like what the plans are for how we're going to spend some of this grant money, or is there?
I mean, we've been providing quarterly reports to the state library about how we've been spending the funds so far and how much we've spent. I'd be happy to share those official reports with you. Jody just dropped a link from our website into chat. There should be some more information there. And then after that, if you still have questions about how we're spending the grant funds, Lori and other staff who are involved in the expenditures would be happy to answer some more questions.
No, just thank you. It just sounds so fascinating. Thanks for the link, Jody. I'll follow it up for sure.
Great.
All right. One last thing about advocacy was that we had our lobbyist, the ILA lobbyist, was on the meeting and said that public libraries had a very good session legislatively. That the things that we were worried about did not happen, and while we didn't get everything we wanted, we got a lot of it in that legislation. So not every interest group came out so well, but it's hard to fight against the libraries. So, okay, let's see here. Then Friends.
Canceled the meeting.
Okay,
They decided since they didn't have anything to talk about with the plans for the fair, they were going to kick it to the next one.
got it. And then we have our,
I want to thank you, Matt, for bringing up the Friends to our potential board candidates, because I think it really is an opportunity.
absolutely. So, and we have our library employment report. And
Matt, was there
employment
anything for Council of Governments?
nothing of
think you-
note. I mean, it met, but it wasn't anything of note. There was discussion about how we would like bringing back occasional like speakers to present on special topics for our to present on special information as to what's going on from various sources, whether it's the township or the village or the school districts. So that had happened in the past, but had fallen off in recent years. So there was an interest expressed in that being returned as part of the COG agenda items.
Okay.
All right. Then new business. We have our change to the November 2021 regular board meeting date. Our November 21, we had discussed this last month, as the normally scheduled calendar date falls the Tuesday of Thanksgiving week. Dave, I believe it was the week before.
Correct, yes.
Move it up a week.
The motion would be to change the date of the November board meeting from Tuesday, November 23rd to Tuesday, November 16th.
All right.
So moved.
Moved by Ted. Is there a second? Seconded by Virginia. I saw her throw that up. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, will the secretary take the vote, please?
Virginia Bloom,
Aye.
Colleen Burns,
Aye.
Madarima Chakravarti,
Aye.
Ted Foss,
Aye.
Matt Fruth,
Aye.
and Sarah Glavin says aye.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone. And now we will adopt our non-resident library card resolution and fee.
So this is, just to remind, this is an annual action that's required of every library and library district in Illinois. It's required for library system membership. It's a state requirement to decide two things: to decide that you will continue to participate or not in the non-resident library card program. And secondly, what your annual fee will be for selling a card to non-residents and how you will derive that fee. And so each year, Jeremy prepares this memo explaining the requirement and offering some information about the rates at which we've set the fee for non-resident cards, and offering the calculation for this year and what the fee would be, with finally the recommendation for adoption of a resolution. Please let me remind you again, as I do every year, that we do not sell non-resident cards, not because we wouldn't, but because no one in our community and no one in any of our surrounding communities are in unserved areas. So we actually sell none of these. No one needs to buy them from us because everyone has library service, but we're still required to go through the act of adopting a resolution and deciding what the fee would be if we were to sell a card. Does that help?
Yes, it does. Does anyone have any questions?
I'm kind of curious, David, what does this do as compared to other libraries when we set this amount? I'm guessing not a whole lot. Because everyone's setting it, and like you said, everybody has some sort of reciprocity or lives in a served area. So aside from it being a requirement, does it impact anything else? Does this number get used to factor anything else anywhere else in any other math?
Nothing. Nothing at all.
I'm just seeing a lot of this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Every library and library district has to go through the same process and the same calculation. It is all based on their own individual EAV in their own communities or in their own districts. So our decision has absolutely no effect on any other community or any other library or any other district.
No one at the state level is taking this number and magicking some math to do something else with monies.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
So I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I'm curious because I feel like when Sarah asked the question about the state library card, you said that Illinois was in fact one of the states where we do have, we do have unserved and untaxed
correct
people as far as the library systems are concerned. Yeah. So technically, those people would be able to buy the cards, but we don't actually sell them.
Exactly. So, right. Again, this is particularly true in more rural areas of the state where there are large geographic areas that are not served by a library because there is no tax collected to support a library. Anyone living in one of those areas of the state would then need to go to the nearest library geographically. The state has certain rules about determining how you find the closest library to you, but technically you go to the closest library and if you want service from a library, then you purchase a non-resident card from that library. And then the library, if they've agreed to participate in the non-resident program, they've done the same calculation. They've determined how much you would need to pay in order to get a card. And if you're willing to pay it, you pay it, and then you can obtain service from that library. So that happens in areas of the state. It's, again, rare that it would happen in the suburban areas around Chicago, but in other parts of the state, it's actually
like more rural areas, like, I don't know, O'Fallon could perhaps be.
That's not a rural location at all. Have you ever been to O'Fallon?
Rude, Matt.
My mother is from Lebanon, so I am familiar with the region.
That's like a
quite
huge
well.
town. Huge.
It is.
Where I grew up, Matt. I'm a little bit hurt.
Can I just say that I'm sorry, but when people in the United States talk about coming from a small town, it really blows my mind. Because I've had students who've been like, oh yeah, I come from this town, the population is like 7,000 people. I'm like, I'm pretty sure there are 7,000 people on my street in Delhi. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I come from a city of 17 million people. So this whole 7,000 is just.
I will say this, that Jeremy's putting some unincorporated areas of Cook County in that this does apply to.
Yeah,
I believe that they have to go to the nearest, like someone in that unincorporated Palatine couldn't come to Oak Park because there are numerous public libraries in between us that they would go to.
Right. I didn't mean to imply that there were no unserved areas in the county.
But it generally does not apply.
Chance of anybody from that area needing one of our non-resident cards is very, very unlikely, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
But I'm glad we have to do this anyway. Thanks.
David, I am interested though in some ways that this figure is used, this $470, because in other states, I read, well, the public library levy is $20 a year because of the different way in which they calculate what the tax is. So sometimes this figure, which seems very, very high when you look at it with another state, and another state has a completely different calculus.
Oh, sure, because in other states, for other states, some other states, for instance, there is a higher percentage of financial support for libraries that comes directly from the state. That's not true in Illinois. There's almost no direct support that comes from the state. In Illinois, libraries are supported almost entirely by local real estate taxes. In other states, that's not the case.
And this is why I point out to people when they see this huge amount, I say, this is the real cost of running the library, because it's not just a portion of the cost. All of our revenue comes from property tax.
Yeah. So. All right. Yes, it is. It was a very, very, very small town. All right.
So again, the recommendation then is you adopt the resolution to continue to participate in the program, and that you set the fee according to the calculation. It's in that last paragraph of the document.
What are the consequences for failing to participate in the program, David?
What I'm sorry, what is the penalty?
No, just like what would be the implication of not participating in the program at all? Is that then a card wouldn't be available to someone who?
But if the library chose not to participate, if someone somehow did come to us and want to purchase a card, we would refuse. We would say we do not participate in that program. But again, that doesn't happen.
Hey, David.
Yes.
Just a comment on that too.
Yeah.
That's part of the requirement for participating in reciprocal borrowing, as I understand it. So Oak Park residents would not be able to borrow from any other library in the state, as far as I understand.
That is correct as well.
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, will the secretary take the vote, please?
Virginia Bloom.
Aye.
Colleen Burns.
Aye.
Madarima Chakravarti.
Aye.
Ted Foss.
Aye.
Matt Fruit.
Aye.
Sarah Glavin is an aye.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Okay. We will now, we will get ready for our closed session to discuss the items on the agenda. Is there a motion to enter closed session?
So moved.
Moved by Sarah. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Virginia. Will the secretary take the roll vote, please?
Virginia Bloom.
Aye.
Colleen Burns.
Aye.
Madarima Chakravarti.
Aye.
Ted Foss.
Aye.
Matt Fruit.
Aye.
Sarah Glavin is aye.
Okay.
Matt, as the board now prepares to go into closed session, this meeting will stay active. At least one person from staff, namely Rita Earl, will remain in this room. So anyone who wants to remain here can do so. And once the board completes its closed session in a separate room, they will all return here for the completion of the board meeting.
Thank you very much. And David sent us a link in a separate email for that.
Okay, and could you give us the time that you gave us that link? Because we've been getting an awful lot of email from OPPL.
Well, I mean, if you don't have the link, I can send it again, Ted, but yeah, okay. I'll send the link again. Hold on just a moment, please.
Thank you.
David, are you sending it to all of us? Because I think I might need it to.
Yes, I'm sorry. I've copied the invitation and I'm about to place it into a new email for all of you. I'm doing that as I speak, and you should all be receiving that in an email in just a moment.
Thank you.
Thank you. David, I just got it.
Hey, Ted,
Yes?
I didn't receive it. Will you remind David that I can't log into my Oak Park Library account on this computer? I need it in my Gmail.
So you should send it to your Gmail.
Yeah, I can't log in for some reason. It's not letting me on this computer.
Okay.
I must have a firewall or something.
David,
And
Sarah.
he's already on the other call.
Oh, okay. I will let him know then. Okay.
Thanks, Ted.
Thanks.
There we go. I believe we are all back here. We will pick up with our item on the agenda. Which number is? Let's see here. That is, oh, come on, my computer. Be nice. 11A, selection of individual to fill board vacancy. After careful deliberation and consideration in our closed session, I would be open for a nomination and vote motion to name our Suzanne Fairfax as our appointee to fill the vacancy on the library board for the next 2 years, or through 2023 village election.
Moved.
The motion, Matt.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, will the secretary take a roll call vote, please?
Virginia Bloom,
Aye.
Colleen Burns,
Aye.
Madhurima Chakravorty,
Aye.
Ted Foss. Did I lose Ted?
I don't think we caught his audio.
Ted, you don't have your audio. Can you give me a thumbs up?
Ted, aye.
Thank
Matt
you.
Firth,
Aye.
Sarah Glav is an aye.
Welcome, Suzanne.
Welcome, Suzanne.
Yeah, welcome.
We will coordinate with you and David and I believe our village clerk about the process for getting you officially sworn in as a trustee, which hopefully will be soon. And we will get you looped in and onboarded and welcome.
Thank you.
We are all very much looking forward to working with you over the next, not quite 2 years, but close to. So.
And I'm looking forward to working with all of you. I was really impressed with how you all deliberated things in the last meeting that I watched to prepare for this. And I was like, okay, this is worth throwing my head in. These people are good. They communicate well. They have a good relationship with the staff. This is a good place and doing good work. So I'm really happy to join you.
Thank you so much. And with that, we have we are tabling our discussion of status of closed session minutes to our next meeting. And having concluded all other business on our agenda, we stand adjourned until July.
Thank you all.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, so
Good night,
much.
everyone.
Thanks.
Have a good night.
Thank you.